Anybody who aspires to wake up, to discover awakened consciousness, to awaken to our true nature, beyond the false self-structure, has to be willing to let go of everything that has provided us with security, certainty, familiarity up until now. It doesn't mean it all goes away. We have to let go of it all. We have to deeply, fundamentally let go of our holding on to anything. And that requires a passionate drive to awaken. We have to really want it.
Welcome to Meditation Changes Everything with spiritual teacher Craig Hamilton, a podcast exploring the deeper potentials of meditation practice and how it can change every aspect of human life. Today's episode is the first in a three-part series where Craig explores some of the most important foundations for our meditation practice. Often when we come to meditation, we receive instructions, sit down, and try to put it into practice. But the quality of our effort can determine whether or not we reap the profound fruits of our practice. Creating a rock-solid foundation for our practice can make all the difference. In our first segment, Craig focuses on two foundational pillars of meditation that can empower your daily practice: motivation and intention. When our motivation to practice is paired with a strong intention, it can light a fire within us, providing fuel and passion for our growth and development. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoy the show. Here's Craig.
So the first foundational practice that I want to speak a little bit about is motivation for awakening. And it's tied to intention. Intention is sort of a crystallized motivation. Intention is you tap into a deeper motivation and then you solidify it. You kind of anchor to it, is maybe a way I would talk about it. So from one point of view, the power of our practice is partly rooted in how precisely and accurately we do the practice, because the precision of our practice is critical. There's the difference between really not knowing and almost not knowing. It's like it's from here to the sun. It's vast, the gap between those two. And that would be true for any of these. So the precision's important, but as important as the precision of the practice is the motivation and intention that we bring to it. Awakening, even though, again, it's very simple, it's accessible, it's awakening to who we already are, but it requires such a leap into the unknown. It is a break in the momentum of our entire life, and not just our life, but the collective life that humanity shares. Anybody who aspires to wake up, to discover awakened consciousness, to awaken to our true nature, beyond the false self-structure, has to be willing to let go of everything that has provided us with security, certainty, familiarity up until now. It doesn't mean it all goes away. We have to let go of it all. We have to deeply, fundamentally let go of our holding on to anything. And that requires a passionate drive to awaken. We have to really want it. That Indian sage Ramana Maharshi was famously quoted for saying, you have to want, I think he said God realization was probably his term. You have to want self-realization like a drowning person wants air. You have to want it that much. That gotta get to the surface to get the air. There has to be this intense drive in there. And additionally, just looking at meditation, many of you have done a fair bit of meditation. What's one of the things meditators struggle with most? Distraction, focus, right? How do I stay focused on the practice? I find, I drift off to sleep, or my monkey mind is going on and I can't focus. I get distracted. But one of the most powerful ways to bring focus to our meditation is to cultivate a powerful motivation or intention. If you were walking on a tightrope, what are the chances that your attention would be drifting off of that balancing act onto, I wonder what I'm going to have for dinner later after I get to the other side of this 2,000 foot deep chasm? It's not very likely that you would be thinking about dinner. You're probably going to be 100% focused on that tightrope. Why? Because if you lose focus, you might die. And that burning drive to stay perfectly balanced and poised is going to keep you completely focused on walking across. I bet. I'm not a tightrope walker. Somebody might say, no, actually, tightrope walkers often think about dinner in the middle. I doubt it. But anyway, even if they did, you get the metaphor, theoretically. Okay. Now, what would it mean to have that level of intense focus for our practice? After all, we're not doing huge amounts of practice. We're not doing okay, you have to stay focused like you're on the tightrope for 12 hours straight. Doing short bursts of intense practice. What would it be to have that kind of motivation? That's what we're really pointing to. Now, motivation and intention, the good news is it's something that we can cultivate. We can deepen and strengthen that. And it has a number of components to it, and I'm going to go through some of them. As I do, for those of you who have a writing journal, have something to write on and with, jot down what stands out for you in this kind of contemplation. And then this is something we'll continue to work with. So, and the other thing I want to say by way of context for motivation and intention is motivational and intentional practices are something that you can do as their own contemplation, but they're also something that's very powerful to do briefly at the beginning of each meditation practice. You can do it put more time into it. You can do it briefly. There's different ways. But this kind of thing really can help you focus your practice as well as being something you can do on its own. So there are a few different dimensions to what we might call enlightened motivation or intention. One of them is, it has to do with getting more related to the significance of spiritual awakening. Getting more in touch with why this really matters, what it really can make possible. So that can have a very, it can be kind of inspirational in the sense of really getting connected in your own experience to what you've glimpsed, to whatever degree, the higher potential that you've glimpsed or tasted for your own life. Maybe through a brief experience, maybe through a plateau experience, maybe just through an inkling, but really sensing into what could awakening make possible. And there can be realizing, getting connected, what it can make possible for you personally. Realizing, the potential to break free from the prison of the false self, from the momentum of unconscious habit, the ways I still react that I wish I didn't, the potential to live this, to be this like super conscious being, to discover our super nature and become a human being who's the embodiment of higher virtues and higher capacities and able to really be a gift to the world. And maybe we sense that and we think, I could become that. I could realize that and bring that to this world, and what an extraordinary life that would be. So there are dimensions of it like that. There's a dimension of this that is really also about reflecting on the precious opportunity we have compared to other people. Think about all the people in the world right now who don't have this kind of opportunity to awaken. They're not even going to have in their lifetime the opportunity to hear about awakening, to know about a potential for a higher spiritual illumination. They're going to spend their entire lives struggling with survival. Think of all the people living in war-torn areas, refugee camps, losing loved ones on a regular basis. The horror and the pain, the tragedy that plagues so much of this world. People who live in forced labor slavery, sexual slavery, the millions who currently live in those conditions. People who live in poverty, or even just people who live in deep culturally embedded ignorance, narrowness, or who don't have opportunities for education, even very basic education. So I'm just saying there's we are so lucky, the opportunity to be a person who's got the freedom to think about and put time into meditation for the potential of spiritual illumination. It's a very rare thing still on this planet for all kinds of reasons, even though there are, obviously millions of us interested in it. But it's still a tiny fraction, and so many never will. So what happens when we reflect on that and we feel allow ourselves to feel I get in trouble when I use words like obligation, evolutionary obligation, or responsibility. A lot of us are like, don't be heavy, man. But I mean, to feel ennobled by the opportunity we have to give this, to be people who can pursue something like this and help consciousness, help evolve the leading edge of consciousness on this planet. Help awaken to humanity's true nature and reveal it in the world. There's an evolutionary significance to this, that when we contemplate it, again, we might not get it right away, but the more we reflect on it, the more we can start to see it. It has significance for humanity, for life, for consciousness itself. And there are dimensions of awakening that just reveal the reality of the sacred, of the divine, the meaning, the significance of that becoming manifest or becoming incarnate, becoming embodied by human beings. That has a kind of spiritual significance that's even beyond the impact on the world and on people. It's like consciousness, the great project of spirit evolving, consciousness evolving. These are also things we can tap into. And then there are very practical ways we can look at the impact of continuing to live to whatever degree. I know ignorance is a strong word, but continuing to live in unconsciousness, in the momentum of habit, the impact that has on us, on other people around us. Often we look and say, oh, I wish I didn't do those things, because I see the ways it impacts other people, the way it impacts my life. We have a hard time breaking the momentum, breaking the habits. So the potential to be spiritually free in this life, for all those reasons and other deep reasons that we might connect to. I don't want to, tell you what should move you right now, but it's like, this is a deepening process. It includes a lot of these dimensions. Taking time at the beginning of your practice to just briefly reflect and connect with some of the deeper terrain there that resonates for you. That's what I'm talking about. Maybe for right now, just take 1 minute for those of you who have a pen, to just write down of any of that, what's true for you, what's resonant for you.
In our next segment, Craig explores another important foundation of meditation practice, non-judgment. For many of us, the same critical inner voice that we struggle with in daily life also finds its way into our meditations. This judgmental tendency then dampens the playful, experimental, and curious spirit that makes deep meditation possible. Listen in as Craig explains how you can create a non-critical, problem-free zone around each meditation session.
So what I want to talk about briefly is how to establish a non-critical, problem-free orientation to your practice, and invite you to remind yourself of this before each practice session. What it means to leave our inner critic out of our practice, to leave it on the steps of the temple when we come into our meditation temple. And this is a big thing, because we live in an age when self-judgment, self-criticism is very strong. It's kind of one of the psychological maladies of our time. And without going into a lot of the reason why, I think it's one of the byproducts of the kind of subtle narcissism and self-focus that really plagues most of us today. Our culture has placed so much attention on the self and gotten us to place so much attention on ourself, an unprecedented amount of attention on the self compared to any other time in human history. We are very focused on our own happiness, our fulfillment, our performance, our success, our actualization, our self-enlightenment, and it's been a powerful movement in consciousness, this birth of the empowered self, the actualizing self. But there's this byproduct of it, which is that we've kind of gotten so used to paying so much of attention to ourselves and our inner world, and then we sit down to meditate, and there's this like, well, am I doing it right? Is this it? Oh, I think I blew it. I'm not doing it right. There's this inner narrative that is, for many of us going, we all have it to different degrees. Some of us have very intense self-criticism that plagues us throughout our lives. Others of us have already done a lot of work on letting go of that, but you notice, you sit down to meditate, you start doing it for a while, and there's this like, this part of us that's measuring our progress, telling us if we're doing it right or not, we think. And so I want to say it was an interesting decision for me to add this as a foundation. It's a particular thing, I think, in our time to really bring this forth, but it's because of the nature of direct awakening practice, I want us all to make part of our practice foundation. Meaning, by practice foundation, I mean what we are grounding our practice in every time we do it. To really make it a problem-free zone. So imagine in your imaginary virtual temple that there's a sign on the door that says, leave the critic at the door with your sandals, leave, no problems allowed in the meditation hall. I won't go much longer. I'm sorry I've gone long, but I will end us with a little meditation practice. So I will actually go, I think, all the way till past. But again, if you could not attend that and you could listen later. And my apologies. I will get better in this course at doing these for in 90 minutes. It's just a lot of foundational stuff at the beginning I keep wanting to say to help lay the groundwork. Thank you for being patient with that. And if you're not, that's okay too. So one of the truths I want us to anchor in to help establish this criticism-free foundation for our practice is the truth that you don't know whether you're doing it right. And you can't know whether you're doing it right. You can't. These are subtle practices. They're practices, as I've said. I don't know what everybody's listened to. I'm doing a lot of sessions. I had more stuff on Saturday where I took more questions. So I don't know if you've heard it all, everything I've said so far in the course. But the practices of direct awakening are almost impossible to do. Your ego can't do direct awakening practice. It's utterly beyond its capacity to do. The only part of the self that can do these practices is your awakened self. It's your true nature. These practices are invitations for that to show up and do the practice. It's really what they are, these practice injunctions. They're invitations for your awakened self to show up and practice. And they inherently go beyond the mind's ability to grasp even what's happening. So you cannot measure the quality of your practice based on what you're experiencing during the practice session. You can't. So let go of trying. That's the first invitation. Realize also, meditation's not about having a certain kind of experience during the practice. Reflecting back what I was speaking about at the beginning of today's session. Awakening's not about a certain experience. Meditation's not about a certain experience. So during meditation, positive experiences come, they go away. Unpleasant experiences come, they go away. That doesn't mean you did anything. You didn't cause that. That's not, and even if you did, doesn't mean, the good feelings were the meditation and the bad ones aren't. The whole ever-changing landscape of the human experience is going to move through you in meditation. You can't use any of it as a sign of how well you're doing with the practice. Even if you're struggling in meditation, it's not a bad thing necessarily. Might be, it might not be, you don't know. The presence of very intense feelings, having an active mind, it's not a sign that you're doing anything wrong. Sometimes the mind becomes more active as there's a spiritual quickening, a spiritual activation. Sometimes you start to awaken to your true nature and you get flooded with creative ideas. They just overwhelm you, all the best ideas that anybody has ever thought. Doesn't mean, you're now distracted. It means you tapped into the evolutionary impulse. You accidentally, popped into an oil vein, and like when they strike oil and it goes spouting up. That happens in spiritual practice. You accidentally puncture into a vein of creativity and it all comes flooding out. None of these mean you're not meditating. Meditating's about sticking with the practice injunction and just giving your energy and attention to it consistently, no matter what's arising. So in that, there's no room for self-measurement and therefore no room for self-criticism. So remind yourself of that before you practice. And beyond that, so that's the first part. The second part is, even if you're having a hard time doing it and you are getting, like, let's say, let's imagine you could measure, or let's say you can't, but, let's imagine there was some divine consciousness that was watching could peer into your meditation and see, oh, he or she is doing it right or not. Oh, look at him, totally identified with thought. Oh, blowing it. Oh, wow, look at that, really letting it all be. Good work, give them a gold star. The angels are peering down into your meditation, judging you. Let's imagine that's happening. Even if you were totally blowing it, can you rest in the place of, look at what you're doing? You're a human being in this world of a million things you could be doing with your time and energy, and things that are very much pulling at our time and energy. You're prioritizing doing the hardest thing a person can do, which is meditate, and for a bigger reason, which is for awakening. You have a very noble heart. You have a powerful intention. You are giving yourself to the great work of awakening and evolving consciousness, of bringing heaven down to earth. Giving birth to the new humanity. Whatever your framework, your larger framework is, that's what you're participating in. That alone, even if you really were doing it all wrong, would still be enough reason to be generous and kind to yourself and not critical. To just be like, oh, okay, I'm just here trying. I'm just here trying. Maybe I'm getting it all wrong. I'm just here trying. And the main point here is, to really do these practices, you just have to try. You just have to keep giving it a shot. And really the way to orient to the practices as you're doing them, say you're taking 30 minutes doing it, is always just in each moment, you keep working at doing it. You just stay with it and you just keep doing it. And even if you got totally derailed and you're convinced you got totally derailed, and oh, look, I started planning my day, I was planning my vacation, I had even oh, what am I doing? I'm supposed to be here meditating, and I've just been totally distracted for 10 minutes. Even when that happens, you don't give yourself any room to dwell on it for 1 second. Just come right back. Oh, I'm meditating. I'm going to keep going with the practice. What was I doing? I was letting go. I was going to let go now. And now I'm doing it. I'm letting go. Okay. No time to fret or be self-critical or try to figure out how to get more serious about our practice. Oh, I must not have a very deep intention. My motivation must be very small-minded. That's why I'm distracted. No time for that during meditation. After meditation, if you want to analyze your practice, that's okay. Get out your journal. Look back. What happened in there? Be curious. What would it take for me to be more determined, more focused, more intent? That's fine. Outside the practice, bring your awareness to reflect. That's okay. Not in a self-critical negative way by any means, but in a learning constructive way, sure. But in the practice, it's off limits. All you're doing is trying. You're doing it. You just keep trying to do it. You try it in new ways. Try it in a different way than you did a few minutes ago. It's okay, but you just keep working with it. And when you're done, you're done. You stop. That's it.
If the approach to meditation we've been exploring today inspires you, you are invited to tune into a 90-minute online workshop Craig will be hosting called Meditation 2.0, The Miracle of Direct Awakening. In the workshop, he'll share a powerful new approach to meditation practice, and guide you in a series of brief meditation experiments so you can experience it for yourself. You can listen to that at freemeditationworkshop.com. That's freemeditationworkshop.com. If you enjoyed today's episode, we hope you'll share our show with others. And please subscribe and rate us wherever you listen to your favorite shows. If you have a minute to write a short review on your podcast app, we would deeply appreciate your support. You can stay connected to the show by subscribing to our newsletter at meditationchangeseverything.com. Each week, we'll send you new audios and videos from Craig, and we'll also let you know when we release new episodes of the show. For a deeper experience of Craig's approach to meditation, consider joining our Awakened Life membership program. Each month, you'll receive in-depth teachings and guidance, including a meditation workshop, 4 guided meditations, and a live online retreat with Craig. And when you register today, you can receive your first month for 50% off. Go to awakenedlifemembership.com to learn more and enroll. That's awakenedlifemembership.com. Check out our show notes for links to all the ways you can stay in touch with Craig's work. Meditation Changes Everything is created by Craig Hamilton, Susan Fries, Mason Ewald, Stephanie Murphy, Will Bowman, and Richard Klein. From all of us, thank you for tuning in.